Good day, everyone. My name is Alen Maglasang, and I will be reporting about the Maritime Labor Convention, or MLC. The Maritime Labor Convention is an international labor organization convention established in 2006 as the fourth pillar of international maritime law and embodies all up-to-date standards of existing international maritime labor conventions and recommendations, as well as the fundamental principles to be found in other international labor conventions. The other pillars are the SOLAS, STCW, and MARPOL. The treaties applies to all ships entering the harbors of parties to the treaty, as well as to all states flying the flag of state party. The convention entered into force on August 20, 2013, 1 year after registering 30 ratifications of countries, representing over 33% of the world gross tonnage of ships. Already after 5 ratifications, the ratifying countries, Bahamas, Norway, Liberia, Marshall Islands, and Panama, represented over 43% of the gross world tonnage, which is over 33% the second requirement for entry into force. As of June 2014, the convention has been ratified by 61 states, representing 80% of global shipping. Content and organization. The convention consists of the 16 articles containing general provisions as well as the code. The code consists of 5 titles in which specific provisions are grouped by standards. The following are the 5 titles of the convention. Title 1: Minimum requirements for seafarers to work on a ship. Title 2: Conditions of employment. Title 3: Accommodation, recreation facilities, food, and catering. Title 4: Health protection, medical care, welfare, and social security protection. Title 5: Compliance and enforcement. For each title, there are general standards, which are further specified in mandatory regulations, as well as guidelines. Guidelines generally form a form of implementation of a regulation according to the requirements, but states are free to have different implementation measures. Regulations should in principle be implemented fully, but a country can implement a substantially equivalent regulation, which it should declare upon ratification. Now, allow me to elaborate more on the different titles of the MLC. Title 1: Minimum requirements for seafarers to work on a ship. This places obligations on ship owners at the beginning of their relationship with the seafarer and covers medical examinations, qualifications, and the use of manning agents. Minimum age requirements. The minimum age is 16 years, 18 years for night work and work in hazardous areas. Medical fitness. Workers should be medically fit for the duties they are performing. Countries should issue medical certificates as defined in the STCW or use a similar standard. Training. Seafarers should be trained for their duties as well as have had a personal safety training. Recruitment or replacement. These services located in numbered states or for ships flying the flag of numbered states should have proper placement procedures, registration, complaint procedures, and compensation if the recruitment fails. Title 2: Employment Conditions. This addresses contractual issues between the ship owner and the seafarer, such as contract formalities, terms and conditions of employment, wages and hours of work. Contracts. The contract should be clear, legally enforceable, and incorporate collective bargaining agreements, if existent. Payments. Wages should be paid at least every month and should be transferable regularly to family if so desired. Rest hours. Rest hours should be implemented in national legislation. The maximum hours of work in that legislation should not exceed 14 hours in any 24-hour period and 72 hours in any 7-day period. or at least 10 hours of rest in any 24-hour period and 77 hours of rest in any 7-day period. Furthermore, the daily hours of rest may not be divided into more than two periods, and at least 6 hours of rest should be given consecutively in one of those periods. Leave. Seafarers have a right to annual leave as well as shore leave. Repatriation. Returning to their country of residence should be free. Loss. If a ship is lost or foundered, the seafarers have a right to unemployment payments. Manning. Every ship should have a sufficient manning level. Title 3. Accommodation, recreational facilities, food, and catering. This deals with certain requirements for the construction of the ship, such as crew accommodation, as well as the provision of facilities for crew and the employer's obligations with respect to food and catering. Accommodation. Accommodation for living and or working should be promoting the seafarer's health and well-being. Detailed provisions in rules and guidelines give minimum requirements for various types of rooms, for example, mess rooms, recreational rooms, dorms, etc. Food and catering. Both food quality and quantity, including water, should be regulated in the flag state. Furthermore, cooks should have proper training. Title 4. Health protection, medical care, welfare, and social security protection. This concerns the obligations of ship owners to protect the health and safety of the seafarers they employ and to ensure the prevention of accidents. It also addresses wider issues of seafarers' welfare and complex issue of social security protection. Medical care on board ship and ashore. Seafarers should be covered for and have access to medical care while on board, in principle at no cost of quality comparable to the standards of healthcare on shore. Countries through which territory a ship is passing should guarantee treatment on shore in serious cases. Ship owners' liability. Seafarers should be protected from the financial effects of sickness, injury, or death occurring in connection with their employment. This includes at least 16 weeks of payment of wages after start of sickness. Health and safety protection and accident prevention. A safe and hygienic environment should be provided to seafarers both during working and resting hours, and measures should be taken to take reasonable safety measures. Access to shore-based welfare facilities. Port states should provide welfare, cultural, recreational, and information facilities and services, and to provide easy access to these services. The access to these facilities should be open to all seafarers, irrespective of race, sex, religion, or political opinion. Social security. Social security coverage should be available to seafarers, and in case it is customary in the flag state, their relatives. And lastly, Title 5. Compliance and Enforcement. This concerns requirements for certification under the ILO, MOC, flag state, and port state control inspection, as well as matters such as complaints procedures. Flag states. Flag states, the state under which flag the ship operates, are responsible for ensuring implementation of the rules on the ships that fly its flag. Detailed inspections result in the issue of a certificate of maritime compliance, which should always be present and valid on a ship. Ships are required to have a decent complaints procedures in place for its crew and should institute investigations in case of casualties. Port states. The inspection in ports depends on whether a certificate of maritime compliance is present, and thus a flag is flown of a country which has ratified the convention. If the certificate is present, compliance is to be assumed in principle, and further investigations only take place if the certificate is not in order or there are indications of non-compliance. For ships that don't have the certificate, Inspections are much more detailed and should ensure, according to a no more favorable treatment principle, that the ship has complied with the provisions of the Convention. The Convention is thus, indirectly, also valid for ships of non-member countries if they plan to call to ports of a member state. Labor agencies. Agencies supplying maritime workers to ships should also be inspected to ensure that they apply the Convention, amongst others the regulations regarding to Social Security. When the Maritime Labour Convention 2006 comes into force, it will replace 40 existing conventions and 29 regulations. It will provide seafarers with fair terms of employment and guarantee them safe, secure, and decent living and working conditions on board ship. Ship owners will benefit from having a clear, consistent set of standards which will all must apply. Once the convention is in force, all ships which trade internationally must meet its requirements, whether their flag states have ratified it or not. Ships will be subject to inspection. Inspectors' powers are the same as those under ISM or MARPOL, including the power to detain ships that do not comply. And that ends my report, everyone. Thank you for listening and have a great day ahead.